David DeGuzman inside the NBC4 Digital Center for the latest edition of the Digital Sports Roundtable, and we are getting ready for a new season in MLS and, of course, the Columbus Crew. So here to help me out, we have digital producer Orri Benatar. Orri, nice to see you. How's it going?
Oh, it's soccer season. It's 10 degrees outside, which just makes the perfect sense to start soccer season, you know?
That's what I think, too. And the Crew, obviously, coming off a very historic campaign, one in which we saw the Crew lift the trophy in the Leagues Cup, but also suffer a kind of an unexpected exit in the MLS Cup playoffs against the New York Red Bull. So a bit of a longer off season than they had originally planned. And yet here we are, mid-February, getting set for a season that, you know, I think will be interesting, to say the least. This might be a longer roundtable than normal because we got a lot to discuss. Let's first talk about the roster itself. Obviously, Orri, we've seen a lot of changes on this roster. Last time we spoke, we actually talked about the departure of Cucho. Christian Ramirez also leaving to go to LAFC. But we do know at least one guy is staying, and that is Patrick Schulte, who signed a contract extension. And that's big news, Orri, isn't it?
Yeah, so obviously Cucho to Real Betis, Ramirez to the Galaxy. So you've got all these, you lose some forwards there, but of course, just retaining Patrick Schulte is important. And the thing I think about with probably one of the big reasons he felt Columbus is the place to stay, besides the success and probably how much he loves playing for Wilfried Nancy, with American goalkeeping in general, there's been kind of this trend of guys from MLS going overseas and then not playing. And with the World Cup coming up in 2026, with that USA #1 goalkeeping spot kind of up for grabs, you need to have someone who gets consistent minutes. And I think Patrick Schulte and people around him probably felt this is your opportunity. You're doing great in MLS. You've been a top goalkeeper in CONCACAF. You went to the Olympics and played very well with the U.S. team. If you continue to play this way in Columbus, you will have a chance to be the starting goalkeeper for the U.S. senior team when they host the World Cup next year. And we saw that in 2022. Matt Turner for the Revolution, he was the starter, despite Zach Steffen kind of being the favorite, but Steffen didn't get the playing time that he needed at Man City and then had to go on loan to a couple other European teams. So I think that's a huge factor, but obviously just a huge contract extension and definitely some good news Crew fans needed after Cucho and Christian Ramirez left.
I think he brings a lot of stability, especially when you're talking about a position that you need someone who is a veteran in between those pipes. That's exactly who Schulte is, especially when you think about the international experience he brings. I think he learned a lot from competing at the Olympics, even though that's an under-23 squad mostly. I think when you compete at that high level, it only makes you stronger. He's had other experiences as well with the U.S. national team. And I also think he has kind of a chip on his shoulder with how the season went. And I'm thinking about, obviously, the playoffs and also how the CONCACAF Champions Cup went. I think he still has a lot that he wants to do, so it's great to see him back for the Crew. Let's bring up the rest of the roster because there's a lot to talk about here. It's a lot of veterans, but also some guys who were here last year that I think want to step up, especially in the absence of a Cucho and a Christian Ramirez.
Yeah, I mean, even without Cucho and Christian Ramirez, you still have Diego Rossi. Now, he's likely not going to play as a center forward. He could. We'll have to see, because we know Nancy, he likes to kind of mix lineups up. But notice with this team that you're seeing on your screen right now, you've got a lot of guys that can play in various positions, including a new signing in Lassi Lapalainen, the Finn who used to play for Nancy at Montreal.
Great job on that name, by the way.
Yeah, comes to Columbus, and he's able to play on the wings. He can play in those defensive wingback roles. You can put him up front. You can get him in those positions. I think one thing Crew fans are kind of discussing that's kind of odd with this roster, there's 5 goalkeepers, which most teams don't need, but I would be shocked if one of the reasons behind that is because the Crew had that situation in September where all of their goalkeepers were either on international duty or injured. Abraham Romero is signed, gets a red, and then Sean Zawadzki had to play goalie for 45 minutes.
Nuts.
So that's probably one of the reasons that they've got 5 keepers on the roster. But obviously the big question mark is going to be who comes in for Cucho to increase that goal scoring production. When does that signing happen? It'll probably be a bit, because you think about the Zelarayan departure, the Morris departure, those replacement signings kind of didn't come until around the July, August time. That could be when we see that signing. But I think at the same time, Nancy wants to see how Rossi, Arfston, Russell Rowe kind of mesh in there. Midfield and defense are still as strong as ever. Schulte and net, of course. So even without Cucho, it's still a great roster that should make MLS Cup playoffs for sure. And who knows if anything else on the horizon like we saw last season.
Yeah, I mean, I think the casual soccer fan, such as myself, might be thinking about the roster and might be a little worried because we are only a couple of days from the season opener against the Chicago Fire. And you're like, well, there's still some people kind of missing per se. But you forget that this is a very long season. And this team that we're going to see on Saturday could look kind of different by the time we get to mid-season, by the time we get to the Champions Cup, and obviously by the time we get to that kind of sprint to the playoffs. Let's talk about the fact that this is a long season, because we obviously know the MLS schedule starts on Saturday, but like last year, there's a lot of other things going on with the Crew this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's just going to be a busy. I mean, American soccer is just in the midst of what's going to be a crazy couple of years from a scheduling standpoint. Now, from a Crew standpoint, it's almost an identical schedule from what you had in 2024. You got the regular season in MLS. You start against the Chicago Fire. Greg Berhalter coming back to Columbus should be interesting. Obviously, the Miami game in Cleveland. I know many people have their thoughts about that. I think a lot of Crew fans are a little bit upset that it's not in Columbus, but that is going to be the top regular season game of the year playing at the Browns Stadium. But then you throw in the CONCACAF Champions Cup again. Got to the final last year. I think food poisoning is part of the reason they weren't able to put up a fight against Pachuca. So if they do make the final again, just package your own food and don't eat anything else. But looking at that bracket, so they're going to start CONCACAF play in just 2 weeks. And their first opponent is either LAFC or the Rapids, which is a tough first opponent to start that journey on. Then if they win that tie, they could play Miami. Win that one, you could play Monterrey again. So again, really tough road in CONCACAF for the Champions Cup if they want to get far. And then you look at the Leagues Cup, defending Leagues Cup champs, but now it's a totally new format. You're playing 3 Mexican teams in sort of the phase 1 opening round. You're only matched up with MLS teams in the table. You got to be the top 4. So basically, you got to win 2 of those 3 games if you want to get to the quarterfinals of the Leagues Cup. So with that new format, it'll kind of be interesting. But, they definitely need to add depth in the attacking role. But I think Nancy just kind of wants to see how these first couple of weeks go. But having to juggle CONCACAF and MLS regular season early is a good kind of test to see if this squad can last through, these busy weeks during the season.
And it's helpful that they did this last year, too. And
yes.
That was such a grueling schedule. I mean, the 2 games per week kind of thing, sometimes it felt like it was probably like 3 or 4 in the span of 14 days,
right,
something like that.
And it's harder because of the travel. Because
the travel definitely does take a toll.
Right, because that's one thing European soccer fans definitely take into account when they think about MLS. Oh my God, how much travel there is. Like you got to go, like traveling from Columbus to California, that's, longer than all of England, basically. So, these travels are brutal. Going to Mexico, going to the West Coast, going to Texas, things like that. So
it takes a toll for sure.
Huge.
Let's now kind of hone in on the MLS and the path to an MLS Cup. Obviously, it's a team that, last year they were the defending champs. Then they lose in the first round. And I think when you play in MLS, while a lot of these other trophies are great, obviously, I mean, Champions Cup is amazing because it's international, basically. I think when you're playing this long season, your eyes are set towards that end of year MLS Cup. So let's take a look at the favorites that we have here. Again, a long and grueling schedule here, and with the changes that we've seen in MLS and the players who are moving, I think looking at this that you have here, that's pretty accurate when I think about who's going to be the favorite and how the Columbus Crew kind of folds into their chances of becoming MLS Cup champions.
Right. So this list is stacked based on sportsbook odds, just to kind of get an idea of where the books have these favorites, but we knew Inter Miami would be the favorite. They're obviously the favorite. They have Messi. They have Suarez. They have Busquets. They have Alba. They brought in Javier Mascherano, a former teammate of all those guys at Barcelona and with Messi in Argentina. He's their coach now. And after their disappointing end to the playoffs last year, getting axed in the first round by Atlanta, this might be their last chance with this roster, and especially with Lionel Messi to capitalize and make a run to the MLS Cup final. The LA teams are obviously great. The Galaxy, the defending champs, in a bit of a tough position without Ricky Puig. He's injured with that ACL. He got injured at the end of the playoff run there. I mean, Cincinnati slightly ahead of the Crew. I don't get fully. I think they're kind of like equal favorites at this point since he lost Lucho Costa, but they gained Brenner from Portland, so they got like a good attacker to kind of replace Lucho. I think a team to watch. They're a team to watch every year, but the Seattle Sounders, adding Jesus Ferreira and Paul Arriola from FC Dallas, those are huge additions, and we all know that they produce some of the best home environments in MLS. But the reality is last year and the year before even, it's always unexpected. No one thought the Crew was going to win in 2023. Everyone had their money on Inter Miami last year, and then Miami, Cincy, the Crew, the three best regular season teams, all lost in the first round. The Red Bulls were the 7th seed in the East, and they made the final.
That was insane.
So anything is possible in this league. You've got obviously a new team in San Diego FC coming in. Let's see what they can do. But yeah, I would say where the books have the favorites now is kind of accurate, but let's face it, the team to beat is still Inter Miami because of the Messi factor. That's always going to be the case.
I look at this list, and we're going to look at it again, and I just remember last year, Orri, that stretch of games where it was like tie, draw, you know, and it was probably around like maybe 5 or 6, maybe longer. I just remember there was a long stretch where it was really frustrating for the Crew, and it was against a lot of these teams that you're seeing here on this list. And you got to think that, again, experience matters, and maybe they can get over that hump and turn a lot of those draws into wins. But then you think about, again, you don't have a Cucho this year, and you wonder what that attack is going to really look like, and you know, you wonder like who's going to step up, and if you get some guys from outside and bring them in, how that might help their chances. But I just kind of worry about, you know, if that happens again for the Crew and how frustrating that might be. But you're right also about, you know, unexpected seems to happen a lot in this league, and we saw that with the Red Bull. I want to give you a chance, Orri, to kind of give big picture look at MLS and just kind of what we're going to expect in this upcoming soccer season. Also interesting to note that, you know, the Club World Cup is happening too this year in the United States. The Crew not part of that.
Which the Crew should have made. Sorry about that.
That's a whole. We don't have time for that whole conversation. But yeah, give us an overview about, you know, MLS in general, and also just the soccer calendar in these upcoming months.
Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned previously, this is the biggest stretch of American soccer probably ever. You had the Copa America last year. And now you've got the Club World Cup this year. Games in Cincinnati. You'll have 4 group games there. Bayern Munich's going to play there against Auckland City and probably win 15-0. Borussia Dortmund's going to play a couple games there. Yes, the Crew probably should have been invited, but Miami got invited. We all know why. So it'll be an interesting tournament for sure. The thing that obviously is the big question mark with the Club World Cup, will the European teams bring their top talent? All those guys basically who just finished their seasons at the end of May, middle May. Look at the teams that might make the Champions League final, which is on May 31st. They could be playing in the Club World Cup a few weeks later. So obviously, and we're seeing it if we're shifting to a different sport, with the 4 nations face-off, the best players
really cool.
The best players are playing in that tournament. If the best players are not playing in the Club World Cup, it's not going to have the same wow factor.
Yeah,
so,
I agree. And I think this is going to be a big year for soccer, this lead-up year into what obviously is going to be a huge summer next year for American soccer with the World Cup happening. I'd be interested to see, you know, the ratings with the Club World Cup, just to kind of get a sense, because you know, we've known that soccer has a huge following. I think after the '94 World Cup, it got that boost. I think after the United States performed really well at the 2002 FIFA World Cup, it got that boost. I don't know if we've really had that kind of, you know, generational boost yet. I think obviously this one is a huge opportunity, but I'm interested to see what the lead-in will be for that. Before we go, you know, part of the whole fun about, you know, the Crew is about the fans. Today I got a really cool glimpse at the food that's going to be coming up. So, I mean, take a look at this story. I mean, just like the food is amazing. I mean, you might have to drop some pretty pennies for this one, but I'm just going to go through the list. I mean, a mac and cheese bowl, that was probably my favorite. The ELT, eggplant, lettuce, tomato, Okay, for
Okay.
our vegetarian options here.
Yeah, it's not
The faux
bad.
brisket sandwich is a nice twist to your typical brisket. Pork dumpling salad, dill pickle tots, also very good.
Wait. Dill
Pickle tot. Are you a big dill pickle guy? Because
They're good.
I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not a big pickle guy, but dill pickle tots, I thought it was a good combo.
Yeah, that looks pretty good.
Dirty Frank's Chicago dog, Dirty Frank's vegan Buckeye brownies, the strawberry cream nachos. Do not sleep on those. Those were
Strawberry
amazing.
and nachos.
Yeah, strawberry cream nachos.
Okay.
It was great.
Interesting.
Always got the cream puff, and then also worth noting that Swenson's, which you just saw there, they will have a presence at lower.com this year. So looking forward to that, and also. Got to bring this up. So let's talk about the kits, because the fans who go to Saturday's game, they're going to get this beanie, which, it's obviously we're in light, so it's not dark enough, but the logos here will light up in the dark, the crew logo and the Nationwide logo. So courtesy of Nationwide, everyone's going to get a beanie. It's going to look really cool. But you're amped for these kits, right? The Goosebumps collab?
They've grown on me for sure. I think, and this is the perspective that I've kind of have now. I think initially when I saw the design, I'm like, yeah, it's a little, non-traditional and things like that. But in 2020, Adidas had the same template for every MLS team, and everyone wore black and white, basically. There was no creativity. Now you have a kit like this that is activated with UV light. You can use a black light to make parts of it glow in the dark. That is really cool and really unique.
It's unique, yeah.
I certainly think that this is going to be a kit. It'll definitely be a kit that will be remembered in crew history. And I don't think it's as polarizing as some other ones. I think.
Well, look, if the Charlie Brown one from last year can grow on me, I think this one's going to be easier to deal with.
For
and
sure.
I personally like it. I think it's a really cool collab. Plus, I mean, we're so used to the crew playing night games anyway. So I wonder how on Saturday how they're going to try to play with, because they can control that lighting, obviously.
Yeah, they can score a goal, control that lighting,
Yeah.
and see maybe how it pops up. I'm curious with the hats too, what they're going to do. So Saturday will be kind of interesting to see, and just this whole season in general, and the future of MLS, because with the World Cup next year, more and more people are talking about, should MLS go to the European structure? Because why are we playing games in 20-degree weather in February? Which even with the European structure, that would happen.
Right.
But you would be playing more games in the dead of winter. So that's probably one of the reasons MLS can't do it.
Yeah.
But if you want to get into the same realm as these big European leagues, you do have to play from August to May.
Probably a conversation for next time, but the reason why I like it is because it does cover that summer lull that we tend to have here. But yeah, no, there's definitely pros and cons to it. And maybe we'll talk about it soon.
Yeah.
But Orri, appreciate it. Orri Benatar, digital producer, giving us a look at the crew and the MLS season that's going to start for the crew on Saturday against the Chicago Fire. Of course, we'll have all the coverage on NBC4 and NBC4i.com. Appreciate you joining us here on the NBC4 Sports Digital Roundtable, and we will catch you next time.